Georgia and Alabama. We'll start off with the Georgia Bulldogs. We've talked about them often on this show, and we've got 17 draft-eligible prospects listed over on our Draft Insider preview, a slew of scouting reports. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I think Georgia's interesting because I think when the season started, everybody was talking about Dylan Bell. Like that was the primary guy that everybody talked about with Georgia. And while he's still an intriguing kid, they have so many other guys that have sort of stepped up this year. I
Yep.
think they've really guys that have sort of helped themselves. There are other two receivers that are seniors, Noah Thomas and Colby Young, big kids. I mean, Thomas is 6'4" and change. Colby Young is almost 6'4". Both kids can run. I'm not saying these guys are top end draft picks, but I think day 3, they're both going to hear their name called. Their running back, Josh McCray, or McCray, excuse me, good football player. Not a big kid, 5'11", about 180, looks thin when you watch him play, but he's a good football player. And then you look at some of their underclassmen. Zachariah Branch, the other receiver, a twitchy kid. Their short receiver, when you look at their Thomas and Young at 6'4" and 6'3", this kid's 5'9" and change, but he can run away from people. I think as long as he stays healthy and tests out well, he could be a guy that threatens the top of round 2. Offensive line-wise, I mean, it's a lot of underclassmen in terms of guys that aren't even draft eligible. But Mika Morris, good guard player. I mean, this is a big kid, 6'4", 340, big long arms, probably going to be in that 3rd to 4th round area. They have the underclassman, Ernest Green. I'm not sure where he fits, whether he's a tackler or guard at the next level, but I think you're talking about a kid that's going to hear his name called if he comes out in day 3. So if I were him, probably stay in another year, help yourself. The tight end, Oscar Delp, we've mentioned him over and over. Underrated kid. I think he's one of the tight ends that's going to probably get drafted higher than people anticipate. I think he's got a chance to go in that 3rd round area. Athletic kid, doesn't look like twitchy, but actually doesn't get caught from behind very often. And defense, right? I mean, he's a good player. He's not a special player. Defensively, it's interesting. To me, their 2 best guys, Christian Miller, underclassman defensive tackles, almost 6'4", 305. People are talking about this kid could press to the top of round 2, maybe squeeze in the bottom of round 1. C.J. Allen, the linebacker, this kid, 235 pounds. He can run all day, has sideline-to-sideline speed. People have told me he's going to be a 1st-round pick. Then you have Dalen Everett, who's sort of been a little bit, I would say, up and down. Coming into the year, I think people thought this guy was a sort of a sure thing 1st-rounder. I think people now are saying, is he a 1st? Is he a 2nd or 3rd? He's going to go in the first 2 or 3 rounds. Just a matter of where. He's a long kid at over 6 feet. And I'm going to bring up another one. Punter, Brett Thorson, another down-under kid, just under 6'1", 244 pounds. Big leg. I think this is a kid. He could play a big factor in this game because I don't think Georgia's going to be able to score as much as Alabama in terms of just skill talent guys. I think this kid, if he has a good day, he could keep it close because he's going to force Alabama into long field situations.
Yeah, you mentioned C.J. Allen. I mean, this is shaping up to be an incredible linebacker group,
right?
Potentially in the NFL draft, which is rare. We don't see that quite often, but this is a plug-and-play, immediate impact, day 1 starter who's going to be, maybe a Pro Bowl or all-pro type of caliber player. You mentioned Branch. Like, this guy is going to challenge for the fastest 40 out in Indianapolis, and
no doubt.
Right? Should he break that? John Ross, I think, still has the record. 4.22, is it?
I think if I were him, I would try to run not faster than 4.22 because the history says when you hold the record, you don't particularly do well at the next level.
This is true, but it does do wonders for your draft stock.
It does, but maybe like a 4.27 or 4.30. Teams will be very happy with that, and he won't have that jinx going with him.
No doubt. Delp will test very well out in Indy as well. You mentioned Ernest Green III, and I had a source tell me that he's been dealing with some lingering back issues, and I don't know how much of a long-term issue that's going to be or not. As you know, the medical always becomes a little bit tricky with the back, so that could maybe
that's a scary one.
Yeah, that could maybe flag him during the draft process.
Well, I mean, perfect example. We both remember. I don't think there was a team in the NFL draft that didn't think Rob Gronkowski was a top 10 pick in the whole draft, but he didn't play his final year of college because of back issues.
Yeah.
And there were people concerned medically that he would never be able to play, that his back would break down at the next level. That's why he slid to the 2nd round, because every team I spoke to said he's a top 5 or top 10 pick. if there was no medical issues, and especially for an old lineman. They got to bend those knees and sink those hips every play.
Yeah.
Guys with back issues generally wash out pretty fast. I hope that's
Yeah,
not the
it's
case for
scary.
this kid. It's very scary for offensive linemen.
Yeah, I don't know the extent of it, but I do know it's been a lingering issue for Ernest Green the third. And then Dion Branch is a guy I want to mention because he came over with his brother Zachariah over from USC. And it was Zion Branch who really was the more hyped up player and was expected to come in and make a great impact. But he was a rotational guy, backed up early on in the season. He's got a little bit more run later on in the year. And that just goes to speak to the talent and depth of Georgia. But at 6'1", 210 pounds, great athleticism, he's going to at least get a long look at the next level. And I will say this, Colby Young, before his injury, really caught my attention. Big bodied, possession receiver, yards after catch, breaks tackles, 6'3.5", 215 pounds. Just a name to keep an eye on. Maybe in the later rounds of the draft, maybe as an undrafted free agent, but that's a guy that I want to bring into my training camp just to compete at the next level. So any other follow-ups you got there, Russ?
No, I mean, the Colby Young kid you mentioned, we talked about him early on in the season, that he's an
Yeah.
intriguing kid because not many kids that are 215, 220 pounds can run like him. And
Okay.
not only run, like a lot of tall kids, once they get going, they can run, but this kid's got that acceleration. So there's something there with this kid. I mean, when you watch stuff from last year and you see Bell and you see Young, yes, Bell was an elite guy that had you excited, but Young at times looked like the better prospect. So there's something there with this kid. I think he's going to get drafted. I really do, because I think once he works out, teams get a look at him, get a chance to look at the physical specimen that he is. They take the
Yeah.
20 or 30 best plays from his college career, and they say, oh, this kid could be something. I think someone's going to roll the dice on him late in the draft.
Yeah, sticky hands, gets upfield, turns it up, cuts it loose, and he's just physical. I
Yeah.
like it. And I don't think Gunnar Stockton is always capable of getting the ball, getting him the
No,
ball too
no, that's
often. So,
it's a little tougher for Gunner. Yeah.
yeah. So Kobe Young, one of those guys. I think he'll be a better pro, or at least a more productive pro than he
Yes.
was at the collegiate level. All right, there's a look at your Georgia Bulldogs, and now